My name is MattMartinson. I'm the curate of St Nicholas Church in Beverley. Really excited, but it's funny because on the way over here this morning I went and just walked over Lendal Sellers Bridge, and I used to live on there in a boat, and just to look back at where I've come from to where I'm at, it's just seeing God's grace at work. As you know, my father was an alcoholic and a drug addict and used to knock us around a lot, and inevitably that has effects on you. And I joined the army just to get away from all that lot. Well, basically given two options: join the army, go to prison. So I joined the army, and it was great. But the army didn't work out, and there was lots of problems there, and I really saw God at work in that. And eventually I came out of the army, and the relationship that I was in was never going to work. It was a real problem. Sort of had my first introduction of who God was, but then blamed God for everything that had gone wrong in my life. And that's when I ended up taking drink, drugs more serious than what I already was, which was serious enough, but then ended up turning to that more and more. And then the violence in my life started, and that's where the relationship just totally broke down, and I ended up living on a boat on the River Ouse. Nothing fancy, it was just a boat, but it was a roof over your head. But then eventually that went, and I ended up sleeping rough in York on several occasions, and then I progressed further into the criminal scene and ended up in a real mess. Yeah. Sent to prison. I made a deal with God. Don't ever make a deal with God, because he'll hold you to it.
He takes it seriously.
Exactly, he takes it very seriously. And I just said to him, look, if you get me caught alive, I will bow the knee to you. Because at that point I was starting to get involved in armed robbery, and the whole firearms issues and the whole violence side of it was growing, and it was a very dangerous world. I'd come to that point in my life where I'd actually just had that enough. I just couldn't take it anymore, and I tried to commit suicide. Didn't work. God certainly had his hands. He got me caught alive, and as soon as I got caught, I was placed in the police cell up in Carlisle, up in the Lake District. And instead of being interviewed straight away, I was actually put in this cell. And I didn't hear God audibly, but I just heard God speak to me and says, make a choice. And I knew then that that was one of them kind of eternity moments, that I had to choose whether I was going to accept God or not. And I knew that if I didn't accept him then probably there was never going to be another opportunity for me. Now, God's not like that. God will always give people the opportunity. But for me, that's what I needed at that time, and that's where I was at. And I just went, yeah, okay, God. And I looked at my life and I thought, well, I'm looking at a severe prison sentence. I'm in a hellhole, to put it bluntly. What more of a mess can you make? You know, I've made it this bad. What can you do? And then, wow, seeing where he took me from and to where I'm at now, that's what God can do. And that is just the grace of God, and that's the amazing thing of God, that he just wants to be a part of all of your life, not just the little bits, not just the bits when you're in trouble, not just the bits when you're finding it hard, but he wants to be a part of all of your life. And that's amazing. It's awesome. I got sentenced to 11 years. As it breaks down, I was going to have to serve 6. But then I got my parole, which was God's grace, and I had to serve just short of 4 years. Prison was prison. It's not a nice place. It's a very hard place. Very hard place as a Christian as well, because in prison you fit into certain categories. You're either a drug addict, a smackhead as they call it, or you're a normal prisoner, or you're this, or you come from here. Well, I didn't fit into any of them. And then on top of that, I was a Christian as well. And I had the privilege of being able to get on all the wings in the prison, but I wouldn't take drugs round, and that's what normally you do when you can get on all the wings. But as a Christian, I made a stand against that. So that caused me no end of problems, and I made a few fractions with that, and people didn't quite understand. And I just had to trust God that he was at work, and he was. And he got me in the prison that I needed.
Which prison was that?
The last jail that I ended up in was the World's Prison over in East Yorkshire. Fantastic chaplaincy team and a fantastic chaplain. Dave Caswell was an amazing guy and just helped to nurture my faith, helped me to grow, helped me to deal with a lot of my past, helped me to pray through that and work through it, and just gave me a really good grounding in what I needed. So I grew in my faith and grew in my understanding of who and what God is and what that meant to me. my whole life changed. I mean, one of the chaplains broke the rule and he allowed me to go and live with him for a bit. And I remember the day that I was released from prison, I sent myself a letter and it said just simply on it, don't forget Jesus, because he's not forgot you. And the very next day I got that when I'd been released, and I needed to hear that, because the adjustment coming out was just horrendous. The fact that I could go down and open the fridge, the fact that I could open the front door, the fact that I could just get up when I wanted and things like that. Yeah, the changes were real, but yet God was in it all the way through it and helped me to make some of them adjustments. I feel at this point, and I managed to get a job with a marquee firm putting up tents, a bit like Paul, you know, some of those sort of things. And it was great. It was a great job, but I wanted more of God. I knew that there was more to God. And in that time, I was going to Christchurch in Bridlington, where I met my wife. Our eyes met over a crowded pew, and it was awesome. And just before I got married, I had an accident at work, and I fell 15 foot off a ladder, and I damaged my ligaments, tendons, and was in a real mess, and ended up getting married on crutches, which was not good, but the in sickness and health part definitely went down very funny. And we were just walking on the beach after we'd been married, and we just simply said, because Haley's been a missionary all around the world, we just simply said, whatever you want, God, wherever you want to send us, whatever you want us to do it. God spoke to me when I was in prison and said, one day you'll be an ordained vicar, at which point I laughed. But then it just kept on growing and growing and growing, and through all that we've done, it's been a progression for me and Haley to work towards where we're at now, to show people that I'm serious about my faith, to show people that I'm serious that God's put a calling on my life, and that's why.
Serious about you as well.
Exactly, God is very serious about what He says to people, and that's why it's worked really well for us. And just seeing the fruition of that calling is just wow. God still takes my breath away.